and even from my sick bed. Even if you are going to lower me into the grave and I feel that something is going wrong, I'll get up. I've spent a whole lifetime building this. And as long as I'm in charge, nobody's going to knock it down. For the young, let me tell you, the sky has turned brighter. There's a glorious rainbow that beckons those with the spirit of adventure. And there are rich findings at the end of that rainbow. To the young and to the not so old, I say, look at that horizon. Follow that rainbow. Go ride it. Not all will be rich. Quite a few will find a grain of gold. Dig it out.
Those were some of Lee Kuan Yew's most famous quotes. Do you notice anything similar? They all use metaphors that are easy to imagine. A sickbed, a building, a rainbow, and so on. He paints a vivid picture in our minds. It's easy to immerse ourselves in those scenes, and that's why they stick in our minds. In contrast, it's less engaging when he talks about facts and figures.
Jobs created was about 6,000. Jobs lost about 1,000. And 6,000 has taken into account that jobs lost 1,000. So 6,000 over and above the 1,000.
Let's listen to Lee explain what makes a good minister.
It's not smiling and kissing babies and patting people on the back all the time. There are times when a very good firm karate chop is necessary. And deliver it cleanly. Don't have two chops where one will do. That's the reason why I have the minimum number of people suffering from karate chops. Thank you. Good night.
Lee uses many well-known actions as metaphors. How can one come up with a speech like this? Let's say you've written, being a good minister isn't just about making people happy. It's also about being tough when necessary. Ask yourself, what are some metaphors for making people happy? You might come up with smiling and waving. Then you could try and get your creative juices flowing. Hopefully you'll come up with something as creative as kissing babies. Next, you move on to metaphors for being tough. And do the same thing. It's simple, but not easy. One way to make things easier is to use hyperbole. For example, watch an opposition leader criticize the Singapore government.
Own sibling cannot sue. After all, we are all brothers and sisters. But political opponents and critics sue until your pants drop. I cannot square, Madam Speaker, with all this argument. Sorry.
I can't forget the phrase, sue until your pants drop.
Whoever governs Singapore must have that iron in him, or give it up. This is not a game of cards. This is your life and mine.
Another way is to think of objects that symbolize what you're speaking about. Iron is a tough material. A game of cards is typically a low-stakes situation. Now watch Lee talk about the importance of being a tough country.
If they could have just squeezed us like an orange and squeezed the juice out, I think the juice would have been squeezed out of us, and all the goodness would have been sucked away. But it was a bit harder, wasn't it? It was more like the durian. You try and squeeze it, your hand gets hurt. And so they say, right, throw out the durian. But inside the durian, some very useful ingredients, high protein.
Lee uses two objects, an orange and a durian. One is soft, the other is hard. Why does he contrast the two? To help us understand what will happen if Singapore becomes soft. Two contrasting objects can make your point stronger. It's a useful technique to keep in mind.
This was a mud flat, swamp. Today, this is a modern city. 10 years from now, this will be a metropolis. Never fear.
Singaporeans are worried. Can they survive after being expelled from Malaysia? Lee uses 3 objects to assuage fears. The progression from mud-flat swamp to modern city comforts Singaporeans. There's hope that Singapore will be a metropolis in 10 years. So if you're trying to inspire people, ask yourself 2 questions. What logical argument can I make? And what objects can I use to illustrate this argument? Lee Kuan Yew was a mental architect. His arguments were the structure and foundation of buildings. And metaphors were the shiny outsides that everyone remembers. But metaphors are only one of Lee Kuan Yew's techniques. If there's demand for more, I'll produce another video. Thanks for watching.